We are rolling. Welcome back to Two Dudes Talking Motorcycles. I am one of the dudes, and my name is Gleb, and you can find me on social media at GlebLapham on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube.
And I'm Mitch, the other one. You can find me on Instagram, Meech2dbeach on Instagram, and I think that's all I have right now.
Okay.
For motorcycle related. So yeah.
Motorcycle related. Yeah. And today, welcome back, and thank you again for listening and tuning in. And it feels like it's been a while because it has been for us.
Yeah.
Because we recorded the last two episodes like fairly
back to back,
and then we took a break, and now we're back. But for you guys, it's been the same amount of time. So thank you again for listening, and our numbers keep going up, so we appreciate that a whole lot.
Yeah.
Today, our big topic is going to be the future of motorcycling, and we're going to be talking about hydrogen fuel and electric bikes, and how kind of like the internal combustion engine is kind of, not in the best of light at the moment, especially if you look at car manufacturers, and those kind of trends tend to translate to motorcycles as well.
It's like technology or something just keeps moving forward.
Yeah, it's this weird thing.
I don't know.
I think they should just stick a giant V8 in the motorcycle.
Yeah. I think they did. I'm sure they did.
But as always, before we jump into that, we're going to cover some updates and some news. And once again, we have a brand new bike that I got to ride. You rode last year.
Yep.
And we also participated in the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride, which that's what our last episode talked about. And it was my first time. It was your third time.
Yeah, third time, yeah.
And I had an amazing experience. It was so much fun to dress up, first of all. I looked hella dapper, and I absolutely love that. And it was so cool to ride with this group of people for a good cause, and to see all these classic motorcycles, modern bikes, all sorts of different motorcycles, and some very well-dressed people just riding around Salt Lake. I absolutely loved it.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun. This year was really good. Good turnout, as always. Good people.
Yep.
So,
and shout out to Mitch here because he raised the most money in the state of Utah. Which, good job, dude.
Thanks, man. Thanks to everybody who donated to help me. It's like I guess I was just a central point for it, but again, it was everyone who got behind me and the cause to donate to bring about funds for these causes for men's prostate cancer and mental health. So yeah. So again, thank you to everybody who donated, whether it was to me or Gleb, to anybody. But thank you.
It's awesome. So thank you all for that. And for the second bit of news, I borrowed a motorcycle for the Distinguished Gentleman's Ride because for those of you who have watched this podcast since the beginning, I ride a Tiger 900 Rally, Triumph Tiger 900 Rally, which is a very modern, giant, it's a pretty big, tall, modern looking adventure bike.
It's not very vintage yet, is it?
It's not very vintage yet. One day I'll get there. But I wanted to I'm an aesthetic person. I wanted to fit that Distinguished Gentleman's aesthetic. So I borrowed I totally forgot to put a picture up of the DGR. So here it is for those of you watching on YouTube. But I borrowed a Triumph Street Twin from our good friend Dave, who just bought a Street Triple, one of the older ones. So he let me use his Street Twin for this ride, and I absolutely loved this bike. It was such a blast to ride, and at first I wasn't sure what to expect. It only had 5 gears, and it's a little bit lower power than what I have, but I really enjoyed it. It's such a smooth and easy to ride bike.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you, because, again, this is a bike that both of us got to have, an extended period of time with, not just, an hour or 30 minutes with. So, I wanted to get into that a little bit with you. But you go ahead and finish, what you were going over, because I had some questions for you.
Perfect.
About that bike.
Yeah.
To see how if we agree with it or not.
Yeah. So, what I really liked about it is, one, it's a super approachable bike. It's very easy to get your legs over it. And I'm a tall person, so I don't really have a hard time getting on most bikes. But it does feel very confidence-inspiring when you can put both your feet on the ground and being that low to the ground, and also having that lower center of gravity that comes from a shorter bike like that. It just felt very good to sit on it, and it just felt like I could throw this bike back and forth, and it would do what I wanted to do. And it was fairly comfortable. I thought it was a little cramped on me. I'm 6'1", so it was a little smaller, but overall, it feels great, it accelerates super smoothly, it runs very smooth, and even with only 5 gears, which I was a little worried about at higher speeds, it has so much power. These are very long gears, and basically like if you're on the freeway, no matter what, you have so much more power. It just doesn't run out. It doesn't feel like it does. So overall, I really enjoyed this little bike, and it made me want to get, not this bike, it made me want to get a Bonneville 2120 even more, because it has this similar style, but a bit more power and a bit more features and stuff. And those classic good looks on those modern classic Triumphs are just phenomenal.
Yeah.
And
so.
I really enjoyed this bike. So thanks, Dave, for letting me borrow it.
He's a real one. So because I got to have like it for a few days as well last year when I watched it for him. So I was very surprised with that as well. It was like, you think like, 5 gears, that's not enough. Like we have to have 6 gears. Everything has 6 gears, but then you get out there and those gears are so long, right?
Oh yeah.
And you're just like, I never wanted a 6 gear on that bike.
No, so, it's even at going like 80 miles an hour on the highway in 5th gear, you still have plenty of power to like pass someone if you needed to, which was awesome.
Right. And then, so what I was going to ask you is like, do you think there would have been a benefit for putting a 6 gear on that bike as it is? Like, how fast did you get going? Did you max it out or anything? Like,
I did not max it out, but I got it going fairly quick, maybe like well over the speed limit. And, no, and even going, I took it up on a ride through the mountains while I had it, and even going uphill, like a pretty gradual hill at like 60 miles an hour, I could still feel like it had so much more power it can give.
Yeah.
I did end up, it doesn't have a tachometer on it, which I wish it did.
Yeah.
Because I like to see where the red line is. And while I was accelerating on one point, there was a certain spot where it just cuts the power off, so you don't, it hits the rev limiter, but you can't see it, so it's kind of hard to tell where that is.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's one of those things you kind of get used to over time as you have the bike, but it would have been kind of nice to know where that power band is. But then I just kicked into 2nd gear and it just kept going. And that 1st gear is from like up to like 40 something miles an hour. It's crazy. It's a crazy long gear.
It runs great, huh?
It does run great. I really enjoyed it.
Following up on that, what I really wanted to ask you too, because what I've noticed, because we have taller bikes that are more top heavy.
Yeah.
Like for me, I felt that it was very much like having the bike just felt more manageable in weight, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Slow speed on everything. It's just like all the weight's down low. You're down low,
Yeah.
So you're not like toppling all this weight on like these 2 wheels, like at slow speeds and stuff.
Yeah.
So did you notice that versus yours as well? And
100%.
Yeah.
It just felt like almost easier to ride it because it was so much shorter, and just felt so much more manageable because all that weight is low. So it was easy to like take it up off the kickstand or like roll it back and stuff, despite the fact that it's actually heavier than my Tiger 900.
Oh, that's right. You did tell me. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, so I looked up the specs, and this is all dry weight, and the Tiger 900 does have a larger fuel tank, so wet it might be closer to even, but the Tiger 900 is actually like, I want to say like it was like 30 pounds lighter than the Street Twin. And I was kind of surprised. I was like, oh man, this bike doesn't feel like it's heavier. But until I like wiped it down for the ride and rolled it up my driveway, or pushed it up my driveway, and I was like, okay, I can actually feel it like while pushing it uphill, but not while just moving it around.
Okay.
While with my bike, it's more of the opposite. Like uphill, I can feel like, okay, this is actually lighter, but it's more top heavy, so it feels like if you're not careful, it can topple much quicker. So I really like the size and the weight of it, because it made me feel like it's just super, super approachable. And I think this is one of those bikes that would be fantastic if you're a beginner rider and you want something to grow into, because it does have a good bit of power. It's a 900cc engine. It's got plenty of power, but it's also so manageable and easy to ride that you can kind of grow into it without going too crazy.
And it's not necessarily like loaded with like a bunch of features and tech that's going to make it super expensive. That's what I noticed. So I was thinking about it leading up to us recording this episode. And like when we talk about bikes that we recommend, I don't think we ever really mentioned the Street Twin like as a beginner bike. But honestly, I think after like being reminded of riding that bike and seeing it again, this would be a wonderful bike. Like
I agree.
Yeah.
I think
that could easily be like a one and done bike, depending on what type of riding you want to do.
Yeah.
You don't want to spend every bike's expensive, but they're not going to be like T120 or Tiger or Scrambler or Harley prices, like or going up and above.
I think this would make a fantastic beginner bike. Yeah. If you want something more classic looking, this is a great bike to go with.
Or even if you just like one is like, oh, I want to ride, I want a motorcycle, but I don't want to have to upgrade. I don't want to have to I don't care about off-roading or whatnot. It's like if you just want a bike that's like, this takes care of my entire motorcycle itch. This is all I need, and I love it. Like I think that checks a lot of boxes off for like.
I do agree. The only two things I kind of wish they had was one would be cruise control, because after having that on my bike, I would not get a bike without it because I'm just too spoiled.
Yeah.
And if you're planning on riding long distance, heated grips I think are always
really
nice to have. But this is also one of those bikes that's just. You hop on it, you maybe carve up a canyon or two, take some twisty roads, and then stop by a coffee shop, and you fit the whole you fit the whole look. Yeah, you fit the whole look of the coffee shop just on that bike.
Yeah,
and I think that's what makes it such a fantastic bike.
Yeah,
for like just being all around.
I remember you mentioned like the difference with having your windscreen with not having it.
Oh yes, yes. Coming from an adventure bike that's fully fared and it's got this big windscreen on it. The biggest thing I noticed was that like I can really feel that wind pushing me back.
Well, because we wanted to ride up Little Cottonwood Canyon, right?
It was cold.
And I was like, yeah, welcome to my world, Gleb. Yeah, I don't have a big windscreen.
I'm just like, okay, now I know what you feel like. And I can show some empathy next time we ride somewhere because...
About time, jeez.
Because my bike keeps me nice and toasty. I got this little cocoon of air, nothing else going on. Plus I got those vents blowing hot air right into my knees. Yeah. So it's like a heater on wheels. That the Street Twin was not. It was pretty chilly on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I think it was a fantastic bike. And like you were saying, without the windscreen and the fairings, I was wearing my adventure helmet, which has the peak on it. I noticed that was catching a lot of air, and it was much better without the peak on. But then I had a random whistling sound in it because one of the vents you can't cover it with the peak off on the Shoei.
I'll stick some chewing gum in there.
Or some gaffer's tape on there. But overall, it was a fantastic little bike. I loved it.
Yeah. No, so I just want to like, as we talked about, I really just want to throw out like, honestly, I think I have to like append my suggestions and say I think that's like a perfect like all around one and done bike.
Unless I would say. Perfect all around, unless you want to do like some really super long rides,
off-road, or if that's just not your style.
Yeah. But overall, I think it's a fantastic little bike, and I'm glad I got to ride it.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, because we haven't ridden a T100. We talk about the T120. We simp for that pretty hard.
Yeah, we do.
But I think like even like the T100 could fit that too if you don't want a more like neutral sitting position.
Exactly, I do agree with that
because like the Street Twin does have a little bit more. It's not a sporty position, but the knees are higher up, your feet are further back.
Yeah, and that was one of the big thing I noticed after I dropped the bike off and grabbed mine is that I'm like, oh my god, my knees feel so much better on this because it's a much more upright seating position.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved it.
No, good, and I think you mentioned it too. Is I think like. We need to try some other like regular bikes. I think all the bikes we've been riding lately they've been pretty top end premium.
Yeah, we do, and we've been
spoiled.
Yeah, we are a little spoiled, and especially considering we both own like pretty premium bikes as well. But there are a couple of demos that we noticed coming up in the area for some more cheaper, more like approachable bikes. So we're gonna go try those out and hopefully get some opinions on those. In the next episode. But anyways, I think it's time to move on to our main topic.
I agree.
And you want to take it away?
Yeah. So, like you said, we're going to be talking about the future of motorcycling. Mainly, we're going to be focusing on the engine aspect of that. Like we've talked about tech and advancements in riding tech and all that stuff. But it's actually going to be on like the motors and the engines. Like you said, like the combustion engine for all sorts of vehicles is. Maybe it's saying its last of days. I don't know.
It feels like it's on its way out, and I understand why. Mm-hmm. I know it's like it's better for the environment, and we're at the point where it's becoming like, okay, we need to do something because every summer's been hotter than the last, and it's absolutely terrible. But I also say this as a person who loves cars, who loves like that raw feeling of the engine, the power, the noise, the smell, like the heat and everything like that. like that. You know, if you ever ridden in like an old school muscle car,
Yeah.
you feel all those things and it just feels good. If you're a car person, you would understand that kind of stuff.
You just like, you feel that rumble and the growl and
exactly.
like the pull, you know, it's just, yeah. So,
and electric motors, they don't really have that kind of same feel to it, but it's also a different feel. They have their own advantages and disadvantages, and they have, you know, it's a different feel.
Yeah.
And this is just something that we're used to because this is what we've known until very recently, where electric cars have become a big thing. And now that electric technology trickled down to motorcycles
it's starting
as well.
to, right? Yeah. And like, so I've never ridden in an electric car. I've never ridden an electric motorcycle. But things I've noticed, just as we were getting ready for this episode, I was thinking about it. And like, I talked to electric car guys or people who just have electric cars, and they're like, oh, it's awesome. It's amazing. I'm saving so much gas. It's comfortable. It's quiet. And they love those features. But then I go and talk to people who've ridden an electric motorcycle, and they're just like, meh. Like it's so like, not to put words in their mouth, but like from what they tell me about it, it's like there's no like engine feedback. You get like this cool whistle.
Yeah.
But then like, you know, there's no clutch to play with. It's just go, stop.
Yeah.
And then your range is lower. So it's like you're missing a lot of experience on a motorcycle, on an electric motorcycle almost.
Yeah.
But for the same reasons people love their electric cars.
Yeah.
You know?
And I think it comes down to a point of like, why do we ride and why do we drive? For most of us, driving is more of like, it's something we have to do, especially living here in the States. If you're an international listener, you might have a country with better public transportation, which congratulations.
Yeah.
We do not, especially not here in Utah. And you basically need a car to get anywhere from your house, like anywhere you want to go in a reasonable amount of time, because doing anything else will take so long and super inefficient. But that's besides the point. So a lot of cars are basically like appliances. You need one to get on with your day.
Yeah, and if you have to sit in rush hour for like, you know, 1 hour to work, 1 hour back, you don't want to be sitting in a shit box.
Yeah.
You want to have like something with nice seats, like climate control, and you know,
something that you don't hate being inside of.
Yeah.
But for motorcycles here in the States, it's the opposite. It's a very leisure, weekend-based hobby for a lot of people.
Well, it's freeing. I think everyone like who rides a motorcycle is like, it's just a freeing experience. You're like, you know, it's like if you're like with us when we go on our rides, it's like, oh, we're not driving through the mountains. Like we're in the mountains.
Yeah, we're in the mountains.
Like on our motorcycles.
I agree.
You know,
and the feel of the engine, the heat, the vibration, the noise,
it's exhilarating.
All of that adds to that experience. You feel like you're with the machine instead of just something you're using to get to from point A to point B. You're there. You're on top of it. You're exposed. And it just feels like it's all almost a raw experience compared to, you know, even driving in the gasoline car.
Yeah. No, it's like combustion is more fun. Like,
it is more fun.
Yeah.
And it could be because, you know, that's all we've known. That's all we've grown up with. And, you know, in the future, like future generations, they may just only grow up with like electric engines and they'll think that's the coolest shit out there because that's all they would know.
And like, I don't know, maybe we need to like ride electric motorcycles to like get our own opinion of it, but that's just what I've heard from people who've ridden electric motorcycles, is that they're just kind of meh as far as it's, I mean, you're still like on a fast two-wheeled machine. Yeah. So Gleb, so what do we do if we love combustion and that's like most of the experience of riding a motorcycle, and EV's not going to reach half that? What are our options, Gleb?
It's hydrogen, Mitch. Oh, wow. The mysterious hydrogen. So hydrogen has been in the talks to be one of the alternative fuel sources for a while. And certain car brands, like you got Toyota, you got Honda, Mitsubishi, I think is one of the works. They have hydrogen fuel cell cars. I think in the US they're only available in California because that's the only state that has
like hydrogen
stations. But the beauty of it is that that's kind of like almost the best of both worlds between electric and internal combustion, and is that the fact that you still get the fast fill up time, you get the range, and you have no emissions other than water vapor. So it's almost like this like unicorn of a fuel.
Yeah.
But it's a unicorn. It's hard to.
Yeah. And the beauty of it too is that, you know, like because it's combustion, there are some tweaks, there are some major like important little things that would make it work, but in terms of like building and understanding a combustion engine, it's not going to be that different, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so Mitch found a great article on motorcyclenews.com that talked about the hydrogen engine, and it talked basically about how there's two ways to go about using hydrogen, and the first way, and this is the way that we currently have, and that's the fuel cell. So
I thought the fuel cell was the prototype.
Well, I meant for cars.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So they have like the fuel cell vehicles.
Yeah, you're right.
The prototype is a way of filling it up. But basically, the fuel cell is you pump the car full of hydrogen, and what it does is, it stores it in there, and it uses the hydrogen as it reacts with oxygen. We're getting very technical
create electricity.
Here. To create electricity, which powers an electric motor. And that's basically what an EV does, except this is using hydrogen versus a bunch of lithium batteries.
Yeah.
And hydrogen is very abundant. It's found in seawater, which we have I think I've heard we had a large collection of on this planet.
I live here in the mountains. I don't know anything about that.
We have a Salt Lake right there.
Oh.
Yeah.
They can use it.
Yeah, it's almost gone anyways.
just take it.
But the problem is that it's super energy intensive to get that hydrogen out of seawater.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of power, it takes a lot of energy, and it costs a lot of money at the moment. But as technology improves, as efficiency improves, hopefully that we can see that in the future. But basically that's what it does. And the prototype that Mitch was talking about it's a cylinder. So instead of going to a gas station to fill up your hydrogen car,
like a tank,
you basically swap out a cylinder, which takes up a lot less space because they can condense the hydrogen in there a lot more. And you basically take it out of your car and put a fresh one in, and then rinse and repeat. So almost like changing a battery in like your remote.
Yeah, or if you've seen any sci-fi series, like most spaceships use like fuel cells.
Yeah, exactly. And ironically, they also use hydrogen fuel cells.
Yeah,
in most
exactly.
Sci-fi series.
Yeah.
So this is like sci-fi is based on reality, and
the future is here.
The future is now. But like I said, the problem with that is that it's super energy intensive, which is why it hasn't gained like that much prominence. But a lot of car manufacturers are working on kind of ways to improve that, and Toyota's being one of the biggest leaders in that. And the other thing that this article mentioned is that the other way to use hydrogen is as an internal combustion source. And that's the one that we want to focus on today.
Yeah.
Because that's the one where the fun part of motorcycling still stays.
Yeah. And that's what we were basically talking about, because they could like do that, make a hydrogen combustion engine, put that on a motorcycle. Then we get to not use up all these fossil fuels that are like, I hear they're bad. So, all these things that are bad for our environment and for our lungs, and if we could have the same experience, same exhaust notes,
and or at least something similar.
Yeah, and then our only byproduct is water.
That sounds great to me.
Sounds fine to me.
Yeah,
water vapor. Yeah,
and that technology is even further away, unfortunately, for now, than the
it's very
fuel
cool,
cells.
Though.
It is a very cool thing to think about, and I think that article mentioned that. Was it Honda and General Motors? This one's on fuel cells, but they're actually building a version of the CR-V. They use fuel cells, but when it comes to motorcycling, we have the four big Japanese brands. They're kind of leading the effort to research and try and develop a hydrogen
motorcycle.
A hydrogen motorcycle. Well, an internal combustion hydrogen engine that doesn't use gasoline, but still has that similar kind of feel that a gas motorcycle would have.
Yeah, because if you think about it, there wouldn't be again like that many differences from a traditional combustion engine now. Like you're gonna have a gas combust, it's gonna drive your pistons.
Yep.
And you're gonna get that rumble and vibration from the motor. So
and you have the exhaust.
Yeah, and like say things come down the road, future technologies advance, hydrogen becomes, because there's an abundance of it, if there's a way to produce it, it could be a lot cheaper and more available than fossil fuels.
Yeah, because you just extract the seawater, separate the hydrogen out, dump the water back, or does it become water? That I'm not a chemist, so I don't know exactly how that works.
Look, I'm only here for the motorcycles. So.
Good call. But so Kawasaki, they actually kind of developed like an idea, or they started working on a project, and it's based on their Ninja H2 engine, and this is still according to the same article. And they're trying to basically adapt that engine to use hydrogen as a fuel.
Yeah. And so with Kawasaki using, the reason why they chose the H2 is because another obstacle we'd run into with internal combustion hydrogen is we need a lot more air intake. So you'd have to have some sort of forced air injection. Because I think in the article... Yeah, they need basically like 3 times as much oxygen as a gasoline combustion engine does right now. But the H2, how that engine's built and why it's a very fast bike, is it has something like that. It has a forced air
it's got
intake.
Supercharger.
Yeah, supercharger.
Yeah.
So it's like the H2 is just kind of like already set up to be like, hey, let's tweak this because and we'll use panniers as to hold the cells.
Or the fuel.
Fuel, and so like that's awesome.
Yeah. It's really cool that they were able to like do something like that, and it makes me hopeful, and I'm glad that the Japanese manufacturers are, taking the charge on that, trying to come up with something, because I would very much love to see the internal combustion engine preserved, but in a way that also doesn't harm the environment as much as a gasoline engine does.
Yeah, and I've thought about that, like not necessarily for this episode, but in the past, I'm just like, well, yeah, like fossil fuels aren't really like the best solution, and we can't keep this going as it is. You know, it's like, but man, I love my engines. I love
the engine of the motorcycle. I like old school muscle cars.
Yeah,
I like a lot of new cars that have like the huge like V12 or V8 engines, because they sound good and they feel good, and I'm gonna miss that one. Most of them are probably gone, but if there's a way to preserve it, and this isn't in this article, but I remember reading this a while back and I don't remember where, but Porsche is also one of the manufacturers that's kind of leading development on an alternative fuel internal combustion engine. I think their specific one, they had 2. One was also something to do with hydrogen, trying to use one of their current engines, kind of like what Kawasaki is doing, trying to use one of their current engines to see if it could be adapted to use hydrogen. Or the other one I think they focused on a lot was like biofuels, fuels that come from plants and things like that. Yeah. So the development is there, and companies are trying to preserve it, but it's still not kind of a wide prominence, and it probably won't be for a while, unfortunately.
Probably not. And like what I was thinking about too is just like, so like where I was having like that conflict in my mind. It's like, well, I love my engines, but I know this is bad, but at the same time, it's like, well, why does it have to be one or the other? And then you brought up hydrogen. That's when we started looking into this. I'm like, there's no longer a conflict.
It could be both.
Like this right now, this is like the most viable option. So I think if the hype is there, so the funding keeps going in for these big companies, if you can get the motorcycle communities to realize like, I can still keep my passion, and life going, like, and my motorcycle life, but I can do it without fossil fuel.
That would be awesome.
Right? Yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah. And I don't know, again, I'm not a mechanic, I'm not a chemist, right? But
an engineer.
I would imagine that perhaps like, because you're burning hydrogen and making water, engine's probably gonna be a lot cleaner.
Oh yeah, because you don't have that soot and everything building up and stuff in it. That makes sense.
I could be wrong. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I mean, you still have to have oil. You have to have some sort of lubricant.
Yeah.
But in terms of burning it off and spitting it out through an exhaust,
might be better.
Like, I don't see like. There's no reason why the motorcycle community, in my mind, I don't see a reason why the motorcycle community couldn't be behind this.
Oh yeah,
your Harleys,
I agree.
Your Triumphs, your Ninja, like all this stuff could be the same, just cleaner. Yeah.
And I think that would be great. And I really hope that this idea of a hydrogen combustion engine keeps on progressing, both in motorcycles and in cars. Because I'm pretty sure those performance car manufacturers like Porsche, Lamborghini, Ferrari, I'm pretty sure they also don't want to lose that feel that makes their cars
that's your
special
heritage, right?
and unique.
Yeah.
Is those engines, because with electric power, as cool as it is to have that instant torque and crazy fast acceleration that you get in an electric car or in like an electric motorcycle, it just doesn't feel the same as a internal combustion engine.
Yeah.
And that's just, I mean, that's, I wouldn't say it's a fact because, you know, feelings are objective, but like it's how most car people feel.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
it's just not, it's just, it doesn't have the same kind of feel to it. And I've driven a couple of electric cars before. I've driven the Mach-E, the Mustang Mach-E. I've driven the Ford Lightning. One of my friends has a little Chevy Bolt, and those are pretty basic vehicles other than the Mach-E, which is a little bit more performance oriented.
Yeah.
And that none of them feel the same as driving a regular car. And I've driven a regular V8 Mustang and then the Mach-E, and the
which
V8,
one's more fun?
The V8 is way more fun because it makes noise.
Yeah.
And it has a rumble to it.
Yeah.
And a lot of EVs, just in my opinion, they just feel kind of sterile. Performance-wise, on paper, they're great.
Yeah, I'm
they
sure.
will out-accelerate any gas engine out there, but it doesn't feel as good. It doesn't feel as good to do so in an electric car. Yeah. And it's not to dog on like electric car owners or anything like that, because like I said, most cars are appliances. They're there to get you from point A to point B.
And like what I was saying, like, you know, what I said before, it's like, you know, in most cases, what you're looking for out of your car, you don't want out of your motorcycle.
No.
Well, you know, and vice versa. So it's like, it would make sense that like, oh, like my commuter car or like my weekend toy or car, you know, like it's EV, it's nice and smooth, it's quiet, it's relaxing.
Yeah.
It's advanced, you know, and it's clean.
I don't want that in a motorcycle.
No, I mean, like, I want clean. Don't get me wrong.
I want clean, yeah.
But like, you know, it just to me it just adds up as to like why maybe electric isn't the best option for motorcycles.
Yeah, and which is actually, I think, is a great segue to talk about.
Which ones?
A great segue to talk about electric motorcycles, which is, in addition to hydrogen, that could be the potential future of motorcycles, and that one is something a little bit more realized because we have them. We have electric motorcycles. We have like excuse me.
We're drinking beer.
We're drinking beer. So hide your kids, but don't let your kids see it. You have the Zero brand. You have the Livewire, which is an offshoot of
that's right,
Harley Davidson, or they used to be like owned by Harley Davidson. They made them its own brand.
Yeah.
I think BMW has like an electric scooter.
Yeah.
That they do.
They got something right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so.
Oh, and Triumph's, they have their TE1 project.
They announced that not too long ago. I'm glad you brought that up because I totally forgot. But
I did too.
So they're already out there, and the biggest limitation that we keep hearing, or at least I keep hearing pop up, is the range and the charge time. And if you're familiar with motorcycles, I'm sure you've heard of Long Way Round. So they did a series, Long Way Up. They drove from Patagonia to LA on a pair of modified electric Harleys or Livewires, Livewire motorcycles. And you can see kind of like the limitations of those pop up because the range is very limited. They take a long time to charge, and the charging infrastructure is just not there yet. And most developed countries, I mean, you got countries like Norway where it's like 80% of the vehicles are electric, and they got that stuff sorted out. And we have, like, with the last, like, the big infrastructure bill that passed, money to kind of build more
electric infrastructure
and charging stations, but it's just not there yet. And as motorcyclists, we don't really ride through areas that are frequented by travelers and don't really have any kind of charging network. They have a gas station, maybe, if we're lucky, and those tend to be pretty far apart. And a lot of these bikes, they have, I think what the Zero has, like just 80 miles of range, like just over 100 miles of range.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's not a lot of range, and it still takes time to charge, which kind of diminishes...
A lot of time.
Which kind of diminishes the being able to use them for
freedom.
Long rides.
Yeah.
And unless you're commuting to work and back or just around in town, it's still not enough.
Well, then something that that came up in like the Long Way Up, you know, was like you had the insulation problem. electric vehicles, you know, like it gets cold in Norway and places.
Yeah.
I've heard, you know, but the cold really affects batteries.
It does.
And what these guys experienced on those bikes when they were on the most southern tip of South America was like the cold was killing their range, really bad. And then once they got to a warmer area, they were fine. They were fine.
Yeah.
they were riding through dirt. These
were big bikes, so they had pretty large batteries on them.
And they were prototypes.
But it was still not quite enough range to, you know, let them keep going without long periods of stopping to charge those bikes up. And
I was gonna throw in too is like because with like that cold versus like how the bikes perform versus like the Rivian trucks that they had there too.
Yeah,
the trucks did fine in the cold.
The trucks did fine.
They were insulated.
Yeah.
So I think that's in my mind that's like, well, maybe like that's another check against electric for a motorcycle.
Yeah,
you know,
because I mean it's much easier to insulate a car.
Well, you're outside. Yeah, motorcycles exposed. That's like the whole thing.
And well, I think it could be great for maybe like local commuting and just around town. It's not something that I could see being used for like long rides, because even from like getting from here to Idaho, for example, for us, that's over 100 miles right there, easy.
That's gonna be like a 4 or 5 hour charge.
Yeah,
right?
We would not be able to do that on an electric motorcycle.
Yeah,
at least not any that are currently available.
Yeah,
because not only is it that far away, we're riding through the mountains, we're riding uphill. I guess I don't think they'd be affected by altitude as much. As combustion motorcycles, so there's that benefit. But going uphill takes a lot more power, so like I just don't see them being as viable unless, and I have this in the notes, unless they can improve battery technology to either fit more power into a smaller battery, or increase the charge time significantly so you can charge up a motorcycle or an electric car or anything like that in like 10 minutes or less versus like the hours, or even with the superchargers for like Teslas and stuff, and like they still take like 20 to 40 minutes depending on where you are. Like if it can be reduced to less than 10 minutes, I think that would open more people up to them.
And not have to like wait around for an hour while your bike gets a little juice, you know. So.
And with a motorcycle, it'd be very often because they can't fit a lot of batteries on them because they take up so much weight and space. So electric motorcycles, I feel like, are much further off. I mean, so are hydrogen, but
they're closer than hydrogen in terms of what's out there now.
But I don't think they're nearly going to be as viable or as accepted as electric cars, simply because you got that size limitations of how much batteries and how big of a motor you can put on a motorcycle.
So I mean, that's basically what I was like thinking about with those two, is like you have exposure issues, you have the range issues, you know, and all those. But I mean, like I'm sure they're still fun. I think they would be, like you said, a good city bike. You know, or even just like a little weekend ride. You know, I mean, they look cool. I've seen them all around. You know, like this probably doesn't carry much weight as a statement because all motorcycles are fun, but they look fun.
They do look fun, and that instant acceleration sounds like it'd be a blast.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
A blast to do, but it's the feel. It's the feel, and that's part of what I love about motorcycling. I don't know, maybe how it makes you feel on a motorcycle.
Maybe cyberpunk is someone's jam, and that's what they want to feel. You know,
and that's totally fine.
Yeah, you know, that could work. So
one thing though for electric motorcycles, I could see them being very nice for is for like dual sport or off-road bikes.
I was gonna say, like,
because the idea that you don't have to like fill it up, you can just like charge it at home, take it up into the mountains, and still have the same kind of feel to it as a dirt, like a gas dirt bike, but electric, you know, it's quieter, and you're not going to bother like people that are hiking or maybe camping. It's quieter, it's cleaner, it doesn't burn any fuel and oil, and you can take it up into the mountains on like a single track trail. I think that'd be kind of cool.
No, I think so. That's and we see those too. There are like electric dirt bikes, like not like motocross bikes, but there's like electric mountain bikes, I should say. You know, so totally. Like there's reasons to have them out. There's in no way is any of this supposed to be like a discredit to their existence.
No, I think, and I can see them being very useful for that purpose, because I can think of like 10 different trails around where I live that I would love to take an electric motorcycle up on.
Yeah.
And I don't have to deal with oil changes or the noise, the heat and stuff like that, because this gets pretty damn hot.
Carburetors.
Or carburetors or anything like that. And I'm sure there are people out there that are totally fine with that stuff, and that's what they like to feel. But for me personally, I'm like, yeah, I totally would love an electric bike. If I had like, let's say even like 50 or 90 miles of range, I can ride it up a single track in the mountains and then cruise back down.
And it's one less thing you have to put gas into.
Yeah, that's true.
Because if you have like your little dual sports or your single cylinder motocross bikes or even your mountain bikes, are usually driving something that can carry them up to where you want to ride them.
Yeah,
that's going to take gas unless you can afford an electric truck.
Yeah,
and it's like it's one less thing you have to like burn your money into gas on.
Yeah, so I think if I were to buy like any kind of electric motorcycle, it would be a little dual sport or just a dirt bike.
Yeah, but
with an electric motor versus a gas motor.
Yeah,
and it wouldn't feel the same. But for how I ride and what I would use it for, I think I think that'd be a perfect solution.
Yeah, I think so too.
So if anyone wants to sponsor us and send us one, we welcome that. But you probably won't hear this comment.
Yeah, yeah. This could be us, but
if you know someone who can, forward this to them and see if you can pull some strings for us.
No, we love trying things out and spreading the word. Like I was actually really excited to do this episode too, because it was just like, because I think that's going to be that was a problem a lot of electric cars face is it's like if you can get people hyped about them.
Yeah.
If you can get like the general population of motor enthusiasts and like again, back with like the hydrogen combustion, internal hydrogen engines.
Yeah.
Like what's the argument other than unless you really love gasoline?
Yeah.
Like, other than, of course, we would have to go into the whole topic of fueling stations and like it would have,
that's, the infrastructure I feel like for both electric or hydrogen is the biggest hiccup at the moment. Well, for hydrogen, it's the fact that we don't even have an engine,
right?
Like
a
production ready engine that we can put in the motorcycle. But it also comes with the infrastructure and the fuel, because where are you going to fill up?
Right.
And how are you going to make the hydrogen if it's so costly to make at the moment? And how are you going to like figure all these things out? But we figured it out once with gasoline. I'm sure we can figure it out in the future with hydrogen or electric. But my personal opinion and what I would like to see is I hope this hydrogen combustion engine works out, and I hope it trickles down to cars, at least maybe like enthusiast performance cars and motorcycles alike.
Yeah.
So we can still keep that feeling of having the internal combustion feel, the vibration, the rumble, the heat and all that, but without having the side effect of releasing carbon into the atmosphere and stuff.
Right. Yeah. So,
and that would be an awesome solution.
No, like for sure. And like when you said too, it's like, at one point in history, America didn't have gas stations out west. Like you were hard pressed. Like I think I even listened to a podcast, like the first like road trip across America. They had to like scrap and penny pinch and dime and carry gas cans with them because going from east to west, like they're just gas just wasn't an option.
Yeah.
And this was a huge feat for them to pull off back then.
Yeah. And look at us now.
Yeah. Right. Now we're painfully dependent on it.
Yep. Exactly.
But no, I think the hydrogen, it's out there.
And I just barely thought of this, but even if you are like hardcore, like gas only, I will never buy any kind of like anything else for car or bike. Think about it. The more options there are, the more competition there is for gas, it's going to drive the prices down, because if more people start buying hydrogen, gas is going to be like, hey, we're not making as much money. Well, I guess they could increase prices too, but then they make even less because more people will be more inclined to switch.
Yeah.
Especially if hydrogen becomes cheaper. But it could also potentially drive the gas prices down because the demand would be lower for gasoline.
Yeah.
So it could be a benefit for everyone.
No, for sure. And like, no, I think, and it's, I keep trying to find the right way to word this, but it's just like, it doesn't have to be one or the other. You can have like I think the big thing with motorcycles, right, is a part of like the history, the heritage, and the culture of motorcycles, like is the experience of riding a motorcycle.
Exactly.
And I'm sure it's the same for car guys, so classic car guys, or those muscle or cruisers, just
performance cars,
cars,
modern performance cars. Yeah,
like that experience is a part of your hobby's I'm not going to say culture, but like, that's your heritage of your hobby.
It's what you like to do. That's why you got into this hobby.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, and so like you shouldn't have to. It doesn't have to be like, oh, like your love and passion is ruining the planet. It's like we have ways we can be better, make better machines, better technology. You know,
and can help the planet while still preserving kind of like that feeling that we're used to having with internal combustion engines.
Yeah, you know, so it's cool. I think people could I don't know, like write your congressman and say like, hey, like don't block alternative
let
fuel.
us know in the comments or email us or DM us on Instagram at tdtmotorcycles on Instagram, which we should have said at the beginning, but so hopefully you made it this far to hear that.
Yeah.
But leave us your comments. Let us know your opinions on what you think of future of motorcycling would look like, because I'm very curious to see what the community thinks, and I'm also very curious to see what the future holds. Basically,
my notes doesn't want to leave.
Did you break your iPad?
I must have. I just wanted to give a shout out to Sarah. She wrote us an email asking about things to talk about for a few other episodes. So I just wanted to shout out. I replied to you, Sarah, but I just wanted to let you know that we liked your ideas, and we'll probably include that out there.
Is that the one about the? Sorry, remind me what the.
That was like talking about roadside kits.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We kind of briefly talked about it before, but we can kind of go over like what's important, like what someone might need, might not need. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt what you're like.
No, I got it pulled up right here.
Oh, yeah.
But anyways, we love hearing your emails. It's probably one of my biggest highlights. Anytime I see like, oh my God, some person wrote us and is asking us for advice or just letting us know like which bike they ride. Yeah. It's awesome to hear from you guys. So like keep writing to us, keep commenting on YouTube. I love it. It's great.
Well, and like just like what Sarah put out there, like what they just like, hey, you know, just even just saying like if you have feedback for us or anything, we really appreciate your interactions. Yeah, so it's awesome.
It is really awesome. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening. I think we're pretty much.
I think that pretty much wraps it up. Yeah,
I think that wraps it up.
I did have a joke I just wanted to throw out there. The irony that we are singing Kawasaki's praises for like continuing the future and clean energy is not lost on me, that we are the ones saying that with how many jokes we make about Monster Energy green and like the Kyle mobiles.
Green energy. Kawasaki's thinking ahead this whole time. They're playing 4D
just a marketing
chess. They've been playing 4D chess for the past like however many years. They've been putting out green bikes.
It's just a marketing ploy. But that's great. I didn't think of that part.
That is great. That is a great joke. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for tuning in. Share this podcast with your friends, family members, whoever's interested in motorcycles or just want to see two partially beard up guys talk about motorcycles.
I got a little,
yeah, he's so good. Thank you so much for watching and or listening. And we're excited to talk to you again in the future episode.
Yep. We'll catch you guys later.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Bye.